And welcome back to part 2 of the HDR Ptex HDR painting video. So what we're going to do is dive into Mari now and actually paint the HDR images onto geometry. So to get started, we're going to hit New, and we're going to choose the first piece of geometry. So if we go under geometry and choose extra bits, and what we're going to do is we're going to force Ptex. Now you can paint on UVs or you can choose Ptex. If you choose Ptex, it's going to ignore the UVs that are actually on the object. And if you notice, we didn't even talk about UVs, and the reason being is because we don't need to anymore. Ptex actually stores pixels on every polygon, and it does it really smartly. It's really a really awesome way to work and keep high resolution images on your geometry in one. So with that being said, let's hit OK, and now we have another option, and this option says, hey, how do you want to organize the resolution of Ptex? So what we're going to start off with is, either uniform face size, so this will take every quad and give it its own resolution, or we can do it based on world space density. And world space density is really good if you have a small object to medium sized. If you're doing a building, you probably want to choose uniform face size. One of the things to know is if we do world space density, it's going to take every centimeter of your object and give it a pixel size. So for this piece, we're going to do 5 and set the format to half. Hit OK. Here we go. So here's the first piece. You'll notice what this is kind of like the oh, oops, I forgot and left some n-gons in here. So for the whole apartment, for this being the only bad geometry I had to replace, it's actually not too bad. So what we want to do is go to the shaders, and let's set the ambient light to 1 and then turn everything else off. So we're just going to get a constant color of what we're actually projecting. And then we go here to objects, and let's add some more. So let's go down to the inside room piece, and we're going to force Ptex again. And for the inside room, let's do 5, so keep the same resolution. It's not too crazy. So now it's generating. Great. Let's select the inside room, and we're going to edit the shader. So let's do ambient 1, everything else to 0. Cool, so now we have a room, and you can't see anything, which is okay. Let's go to the wireframe button. So, ooh, now we can see all the little edges. That definitely does help when you're painting. So the next thing we want is this little kitchen island that's right here in the kitchen area. So let's hit plus, load another object, and here's the kitchen island. And we're going to force Ptex, and since we're going to do our rendering around here, I want to kind of make it a lot higher res, so we're going to choose a size of 15, so every centimeter is going to be 15 pixels, and we'll hit OK. And there it is. And one more thing is we want to actually adjust the shader, so let's grab this and then adjust the lighting. Ta-da. Perfect. And now for the outside of the window, it's going to be off in the distance. So for this piece, since it's very large, we're going to do something a little different. So when we do outside city, we're going to set it to force Ptex, and we're going to change it to uniform face size. So I'm definitely going to start with 128 by 128, format half, hit OK. Okay, and then let's adjust the clipping. Perfect. So now we can see the buildings outside, and so we have some good parallax too. So now our geometry is set. Oh, I forgot to adjust the shaders for that piece. So if we go outside city, ambient light 1, and then set everything else off. Okay, so now let's talk about camera, because you don't want to go through here and pull the image in and try to kind of orientate it inside of Mari. You always want to have a pre-positioned camera, especially because we have over 150 different positions to actually paint. So to do this, what we're going to do is use our projector. Now we can load up a camera two ways, through the projectors, or we can do it through camera load. And if we do camera load camera, and I go to the Mari camera FBX file, I can scrub through the frame range. So we're going to go 1 to 360, and here we go. Hopefully you can see the wireframes, and we're scrubbing through the camera. Now if I move the view, we're not going to get back to that camera. So instead of going load camera again, what we can do is go to projectors, and we're going to load projector, and we're going to load the FBX camera in that way. So now when we have this open, we want to right click and go assign shortcut, and you can see here that we're going to set it to Shift V for the projection camera. Okay, and then it's going to say Shift V here also. So now if I hold down Shift V after I move the camera, it's going to snap it back to our lined up camera for the geometry, which is really great. So now we can actually load up the image to project through this by going down here and go input file and then clicking the project button. But because my geometry doesn't line up 100%, we're going to have to use the paint through and just kind of nudge it into place per image. But before we start painting, we want to make sure that we're painting the right color space. So there's a few things you have to do. It's like a little checklist. First thing, let's go under our painting and adjust the paint buffer. So your color depth, we want to have 16 bits. Buffer size, for this graphics card, I have 580 with 3 gigs of RAM. 4K is pretty good. I don't have any problems with that. And our clamp, we want to make sure we turn the clamp off, because we don't want to be clamping any half float values that go above 1. And then also under the projectors, whenever you're using a projector camera, you want to make sure you adjust the same thing over here, because these are going to override. Every time I hit Shift V, whatever's set up here, it's going to be overwritten for the painting. I didn't know that until I found that up by mistake. So color depth 16, 4K, and turn off the clamp. And then what we also want to do is go under View, Palettes, and choose Color Manager. And this is, I believe this is new to 1.3. We want to make sure that our color profile is linear to sRGB, which is basically going to put a sRGB viewer LUT, but keep everything else in linear, because we're working in a linear workflow. So one more option is going to be under Preferences, and if we go to the GPU section, we want to make sure that you change the texture type from byte to half. And now we should be cooking. So now we're able to actually paint. So for the first frame, what we do is go to the Image Manager, and I'm going to go Paint Through Brush. So if we right click and go to our compiled HDRs, we want to grab frame 1, 2, 3, frame 1, and then we'll just plop it down. And I'm holding down Control and Shift, and then scaling. All these little options are right there. And what I want to do is I actually want to turn off some of the other geometry. So what we want to keep is the extra bits layer, and we're just going to hide everything else, just so I don't project over on top of it. So once we get this guy set up right here, we'll go to the brush editor, and I like to always start off with linear, and we'll just paint this, paint those values, and then I have the B button set to bake, and Shift C is to clear the paint buffer, or you can just click this guy right here. So now that I have this guy painted, we have to do the other image. So I'm just going to move the view over to this light right here. And we'll just fit him down and then just paint him. Okay. And we'll bake it. And then clear. And deselect so I can see everything. So yeah, we got 2 lights painted. Not too bad. Hit Shift V to go back to our projector camera. And now let's find another frame. So to do that, let's turn on all the other objects. You can turn it on here, or you can go Selection, Show All, and it should show everything in your scene. So back to here, let's go. We got frame 6. So now if I go to the Image Manager, you want to clear these out because I think those are 90 megs each at 4K, those compiled HDR photos. So we're going to basically go Open and 6. Alright, so the second image. And we'll grab this guy and throw him there. So you can see here, let's say we wanted to paint this candle that's been half melted. So I'm going to turn off everything but this countertop, and let's just try to line it up a little bit. Okay, so now if we go to paint that piece, it's not too bad. I'm actually not matching too well around this bottom piece, so let's try this again. Nope, way off. There we go. Okay. Nope, still off. That's alright. You know what? We'll just do what we can, and then we'll just grab this bottom piece, and there we go. Just trying to pay attention to the wireframe, and if we want to nudge these little areas right there, we can grab our warp and we'll press up to change resolution, and just grab that little guy, stretch him out. There we go. Awesome. So now if we hit B to bake, it's gonna bake this on the geometry. And Shift C to clear the paint buffer. And there we go. We're starting to paint these projections. Now, another way to do this would be really cool is if you take some some new cameras, like Red has an Epic, and it shoots HDR, so you could set a fast shutter and survey the whole apartment here, and I could actually track the footage, build geometry off the tracked footage, and then pull that camera in here, and then grab the frame that I want to paint, and pretty much it'll save a lot of time than having to line up every single camera or take it from a digital SLR. But you got to do what you can do with what you have. Alright, so now let's paint some other areas of this. So we're going to go back to our paint through tool, and I want to try to line up this edge with this. So we're just going to scale it, position this over here. Let's test it out. So yeah, it's not too bad, but we want to scale up a little bit. There we go. So now we're just going to paint this guy. Ta-da, ta-da. Alright. Looking good. We'll bake that down. Clear the buffer. And that's what we have. Now you'll notice there's these little edges right here that we're getting. Sometimes it's good to actually, the first time you do any painting, when we paint this, what you want to do is change from front to through for your projection settings. So where is he for the projector? Let's kill this. Bump it up. Here we go. So projector through. So now if we bake this, and then we can also change under painting, or I'm sorry, projection settings. So we can do it here too. Go through and bake. It's gonna be a little longer because it has to go through, and it's gonna paint the geometry all the way through into the end. That's why it's good to hide pieces when you do projection with through, but you won't see any edges at all. So now, yeah, you can see right here we aren't seeing any edges around the little geometry pieces. So now what we want to do is go, we'll just set to front for now, but just keep in mind you might want to change it in both areas. So yeah, see, the second we press Shift V, it's going to change the through back. So we want to go front and then front again. So now it's not going to overwrite every time I hit the Shift V key. All right, so now let's go find another angle. So this is 9. Let's go open and 789, and we'll just grab this guy and replace him. So what we want to do is get this corner lined up. And let's see what he's doing. It's a little off. Let's scale him up a little bit more. Yeah, that feels about right. So we'll just paint that like so. Try not to over paint the areas I already painted on. And we'll just paint this guy. Awesome. And we'll just change that to through, so it paints through and gets rid of those little edges. Bake. Alright, great. So now we'll do front. I'm going to clear this buffer. Oh yeah, now we're getting somewhere. So now let's deselect the paint through so we can see. And Shift V, and let's turn on some of the other geometry so we can see where we're at. Okay, so this looks good. What frame is this? 27. So let's go back over to the image manager, and you want to make sure that you actually clear this image manager area. So we're gonna clear those images because they will stay in RAM. Or maybe that's changed. 27. So here 25, 26, 27. And we'll do paint through. We'll grab this guy and just get him positioned. So yeah, let's work on the bottom ground area here. So yeah, we're just painting that guy in there. I mean, it's a little more work than spherical, but in the end, you know, you get correct distance. And if you ever wanted to do a CG camera move, you can easily do that with high-res photography. That's HDR. It's really a great asset to have. Okay, so let's paint the ground. And, we'll just paint over a little bit right there. That's fine. Do some of that. Actually, no, I don't want to paint that. Let's paint some here. Ta-da. Okay, and now let's paint the this tabletop area. So we'll just turn off everything but the countertop. We'll go back to our paint through brush and then just kind of position this guy a little bit. So yeah, we want to scale him down. Yeah, just paint him in a little. There we go. Yeah. Oops. Scale it. Move over to the right. There we go. Yeah. And for this, we'll just position this edge here. And just fix our paint strokes. And we'll probably just erase this guy around the edge. So now if I bake that, and for this countertop, We're just going to go and grab it like so. Hold down Shift. Shift V. Oh yeah, we're gonna go Selection, Hide Unselected. There we go. So now I don't have to worry about overriding my my projections. So yeah, that looks good. We'll bake that. Super. So yeah, so we can get pretty high res. So if you wanted to at any point get more high res than this, what you want to do is actually select the patches, and then under Ptex, you go double face resolution, or you can change the texel density for world space. So we can just grab this, just go double, and it will double your face resolution. So let's just do show all again. Okay. And go another angle. Yeah, let's do outside the window. So right, let me see, where do we start at? This is kind of creepy. I felt really creepy taking these outside photos because there's another apartment building really close. So for this, let's just leave the outside city visible and then turn off all the other objects. And we'll just go in here. And what frame are we at? 300. All right. Bump it up. Alright, we'll just grab him here. And we're just going to match up this tower a little bit. There we go. So here's the sky. We got the buildings. Perfect. And yeah, we'll just do through. There we go. So you see those edges just went away. Okay, that's done. Not too bad. And yeah, check this out. This is what I love, because we can just now clone this back area. So if we go to brush editor, under presets, go linear, and yeah, let's just clone this building out. And it's Ptex. That's great. So we'll bake it. Perfect. There's a little bit showing, a little ghost. So we'll just try that again. Paint this area. Bake it. Great. So yeah, now we cleaned up that sky pretty well, which is awesome. Now we'll go another camera angle. Let's paint like the creepy area. So what we got? No, it's not creepy enough. Here we go. So 303. There we go. And we'll just grab this one. Just line it up. Yeah, it's not too bad. We're a little off. We can fix that. And I'll fix that by actually erasing. Just erase this little area right there. And project it. Clear the projection. And we're going to paint through and just try to line that up a little better. There we go. There you go. Oh. Alright, great. So we'll turn that off. And yeah, we could paint this area, or we can just do a solid black color. So we'll just hold down C, and we'll sample these colors, and just paint it if we want. A little purple, a little too much purple, but you get the picture. So what we'll do now is actually finish painting, and then let's just close this and pull this project out of the oven, like one of those cooking shows, and let's open the finished piece. So this is like, this whole archive for the finished apartments is about 8 gigs. It's an 8 gig Mari file, and about 6.5 gigs worth of exported Ptex. So I'm gonna hold Shift V, and it's it's gonna load up and try to load up the resolution inside. Oh, one thing we want to adjust is change this back. Yeah, it's going to have to build all the files inside the project as you change cameras. So you can see me in the mirror, and yeah. So here's the outside camera, and yeah, we'll just move everything around. You get some nice parallax. I mean, every angle isn't actually painted, but if you're doing a render and you grab something that shouldn't be there in the reflection, you can always just paint it. What I did is, it probably took me about one sitting to paint everything, and then the next day I did some cleanup. So there's areas you want to blend in together on the walls and stuff a little better. You can do so fairly quickly. But what we do have is a fully textured HDR environment to use for lighting, reflections, or for just rendering the room in CG with any camera we want, any angle. It's pretty exciting. And so we have the kitchen counter, and the ceiling areas, and the outside. So now to export this, what we want to actually do is just go to channels, and you'll see there's a Ptex channel. So now what we can do is just go right click, export, and you can do all objects. We do the kitchen, the selected object only. And option wise, you just pretty much want everything. So you want the face bitmaps and the geometry as well. The good thing about that is if you export it and the file's a little too big and you're having a hard time rendering with it, then you can always create a new Mari file and change the resolution in half for that Ptex with the geometry. The great thing about exporting with bitmaps is it's going to have multiple resolutions all the way down. So if you're further away on the object, the renderer won't load up the highest res Ptex file for those polys. And it's going to grab the geometry name and write it out as a Ptex file. So we hit all, and it will export. So we pretty much want to do that for all the different objects. And then I guess I'll see you in the next video, and we'll do some rendering with it. Thanks.